It's PlayStation's birthday today.
Oh, what gift do we get a 25-year-old game console?
How about a world record?
Hot take!
My goodness.
A world record? Yes, it seems PlayStation has been certified as the best-selling video game console brand of all time by the Guinness Book of World Records. Now, according to VG Charts, there's an estimated 450.19 million units sold as of the 7th of November, 2019.
Yeah, I think a lot of people out there are kind of shocked to hear this number because when you typically think about video game consoles and brands, you do think about PlayStation, but most people think about longer companies in the mix, so that would be Nintendo.
You might be thinking about Nintendo, but according to VG Charts as well, Nintendo's home console numbers since the NES are only 324.29 million. So that's a gap of over 100 million if you're paying attention. You know what else I'm surprised about, Shane?
What?
That no one has put a net on that monkey.
That's true.
On that ape.
Yeah.
You gotta put a monkey on that ape, man. You can't let it escape.
This is the whole thing. You might be seeing that image, folks. You might not know who the character is to the left of the monkey.
Yeah.
That is actually a character from Japan that is used in a variety of different video games. But one of the things I most notably recognize the character from is from the little VMU-like devices that they released on the PlayStation Japan that didn't actually come out in North America. Regardless, that image was from the Guinness World Records signing thing.
Commemoration ceremony. As of today, December 3rd. So that was celebrated in Tokyo. And yeah, it's pretty neat. So we wanted to sit down today and talk a little bit about just like PlayStation and memories and stuff. We love all consoles.
Yes, we do.
Right now, I feel like I'm playing my Switch more than I'm playing like my PlayStation 4 and stuff. But I can't help but deny that the PlayStation 1, especially all those years back, was a huge part of my life and a big part of what made me into the sort of gaming-centric person I am today. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's probably one of the most definitive consoles. I grew up playing the NES and the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, even the Atari 2600. I played lots of old systems because at the time we didn't have a lot of money to go out and buy brand new consoles. So when the PlayStation hit the scene, I didn't actually buy it right away because I couldn't afford it. And convincing my parents this was a smart purchase really didn't work that well.
I know. Well, as a kid, you go through a lot of different consoles, and maybe some people struggle with, oh, they bought a 3DO and that didn't work out, or they bought whatever else.
Yeah.
The PlayStation seemed like it might just be another one of those consoles that would be there a moment and then maybe gone the next.
Yeah.
Who knows? But right now, one thing's for sure, the folks at PlayStation and at Sony are kind of, they can't help but go nya at Nintendo.
It's
because at one point Sony was supposed to have their own technology integrated into what was the Super Nintendo.
That's right.
Right, and then they wound up. The whole thing fell through, and they went with Philips, and the CDI happened.
Yeah, you may have actually seen this recently. Someone found the model of the Nintendo PlayStation, which is essentially a Super Nintendo, or Super Famicom, sorry, with a CD drive attached to it. Now, I actually got a chance to play that, like turned on and actually play games on it, and it's just a Super Nintendo with a disc drive. But if that had happened, the change of the games industry as we know it would have been so wild. It's like having a completely different form of history happen that we didn't get to see. But instead of that happening, we got this.
Oh, I've had this in my lap the whole time. Ooh, so this is the PlayStation Model 1. This is very similar to the guy that I had. I think I got mine, I believe it was in 1998. I was a little bit late to the PlayStation because I got the N64 the winter it came out in 1996. And then right after that, some games came out that I thought were really cool. And I asked my parents, I was like, hey, can I get a PlayStation? Like, we just got you the N64. And it was really hard to get. Like, why are you asking?
Now, so at this point in time, I'm renting video game systems because that was a cheaper method to actually playing these consoles. So I rented the 3DO. I think I rented the N64 with friends, and we would actually get together and pool our money and go to one person's house and get the game system there, and we'd all play it all night throughout the entire weekend. Then we wouldn't be able to stay awake during class on the weekdays, which is probably why I did bad in school. It was a thing that we did a lot.
But look where you are now.
Look where I'm at.
And it's all because of the PlayStation and N64 and all that.
The PlayStation of the new generation of systems that required the use of more advanced kind of technologies like the CD-ROM. That was the very first CD-ROM based system I purchased. And the reason why it happened was because we had a series of pawn shops close to where I lived. And one of those pawn shops is a big chain. And I ended up up getting it used. And somebody brought it in, they beat the heck out of it. But you know what? It worked. And that was the system I used to play a lot of games.
Did you ever have to put it on its head in order to get it to read the discs?
You might not remember this, folks, but if you actually had a disc read problem where it wouldn't read the discs, I guess it was easier on the motor if you hung it upside down.
I never had to do that because I took good care of my PlayStation.
Well, I didn't own mine originally.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
I remember being on vacation. It must have been sometime in like 1995, or I believe this was before the N64, and I just wanted it. I saw it on a shelf and I was like, that looks awesome. I want to pick one up. But again, my folks were like, no, you can't just pick this thing up like we're on a family vacation somewhere. I probably didn't have the money, I'm assuming. But when I did wind up getting mine, one thing that I played over and over again that I wanted to bring up today was this demo disc that I got with my original PlayStation. Maybe you guys remember this. This is the Volume 3 interactive CD sampler pack. Dare to sample the best, it says. And on this, we had Twisted Metal 2, Crash Bandicoot, and Tekken 2. I remember playing Tekken 2 a lot.
Yeah, me and my friends would be switching out these discs between each other. We'd be like, oh, there's a game on here you should try out and stuff like this. This sounds weird nowadays, but understand that at the time, only one or two other systems prior to this actually came with what we would now consider a demo or a sampler disc. Prior to that, if you had to play any sample of the game, you would go to the store and the game would be running on a demo system that you could play there. You couldn't actually bring the demo with you home. But not only could you play one demo of a game, you could play multiple.
Yeah.
And that was so revolutionary for the time.
It was really awesome. And another way that you could get your demos was through magazines. And I remember that was blowing my mind. There was the official PlayStation magazine that launched just shortly after the original PlayStation came out. And I believe we both got the same issue at some point because there was a demo. It was October 1998. Was that the date I quoted you? I think so.
Yeah.
And it had the Metal Gear Solid demo in it, as well as a few others, like a Ninja, that game no one remembers from Eidos, and Devil Dice, and amongst a few other things.
I remember there was a disc that I got that had Metal Gear Solid on it, and the Metal Gear Solid demo had its original Japanese, though the English was or the actual text was translated in English. It was just the opening scene, I believe, when you get through the elevator and up that, and then once you crawl into the vent.
Exactly. That's the exact demo. As soon as you crawl into those, you didn't know what was next, man. You went into those vents and then anything could have happened.
Yeah, I had played Metal Gear on the NES previously, so I knew a bit about Metal Gear, but I had no idea what I was actually going to experience at that time. I had purchased other magazines too, so I was a PC gamer at the same time. So not only was I getting PlayStation Magazine, but I was also getting Next Generation. And Next Generation had this amazing issue where they dealt with everything that Metal Gear Solid was and what they were doing for it. And there's all these videos and stuff in it. And although that disc came with a couple of demos, the one I got for PlayStation mattered the most because I actually got to play the game for the first time.
Yeah, and it was so neat playing it like on the hardware and stuff. Like you said, the fact that demos were running on this thing was kind of like mind blowing at the time, and it made your purchasing so much better because you know that the game you're getting is quality. Before that, you just look at a cover or you see a commercial or something. You don't really get hands on time with it. So yeah, because of that, I wound up picking up Metal Gear Solid, of course. But before I wound up getting the reason I got my PlayStation altogether was because of one game. And I remember going to my buddy's house and I had my N64 at the time. And my buddy was playing this game. It was an RPG. And I was like, what the heck is this? This looks really cool. It's like steampunk. And he's like, yeah, try it out, man. I'm like, what's leveling up? This is crazy. I'm getting stronger? They're like, yeah, your main character's name's Cloud. And that's Barrett over there. I'm like,
this is... He was playing Wild Arms, folks.
No. Final Fantasy VII. It was the reason why I started playing on PlayStation devices.
Yeah.
Right? It was that game alone it lived up to the commercials I had seen. It was promising this sort of cinematic experience. And mostly I got that out of the PlayStation more so than any other console. Not just with Final Fantasy, but with Metal Gear Solid as well. Parasite Eve.
Yeah.
I was really big into RPGs and stuff, but I liked other stuff too, like platformers. I remember some of the first games I picked up were the Crash Bandicoot games, the first and the second one specifically.
Yeah, honestly, demos and just the ability to sample games was such a big part that they would actually sell games with a demo attached to them, and the only way to play that demo was to buy that game.
Ooh.
And that was a big deal.
Square did that a lot.
Yeah.
So with Brave Fencer Musashi, you got the demo for Final Fantasy VIII, and that's like one of the only reasons I rented that game. I was like, I don't care. Brave Fencer Musashi is good.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't care at the time. I was like, I want to play Final Fantasy VIII.
Yep.
And yeah, that was
it was a big deal.
Yeah.
There are so many examples of how different things were at the time, but the best way to kind of understand how impactful PlayStation was, kind of as a brand and identity at the very beginning, was to consider when we saw those trailers and like commercials for Final Fantasy VII, it was looking like a movie, and the whole thing was trying to sell you it as a film. And then at the very end of the commercial, it would go, "The greatest cinematic event of all time is only available on the PlayStation."
Uh-huh.
At that point, if Nintendo had tried the same thing with the Nintendo 64, it wouldn't have worked the same way because the N64 didn't have cartridges that were big enough to store all those video files.
Yeah.
So what you got with a disc was a repeatable, like you could put in multiple discs for a game, and you could have these huge games like Riven, which had like multiple discs, and that was the only way you could do it. You couldn't do that on 64.
You recalled a moment, it's one of my favorite games, Lunar Silver Star Story. That was your sort of proving of the CD tech. What happened with that for you?
So the first thing I did when I got my used PlayStation was not buy a game for 2 weeks. We just couldn't afford the game. It didn't make a lot of sense. I could convince my parents, use PlayStation. Look, we go to the store. It's going to be way more expensive, okay? So we ended up getting it from the used store. Then when I brought it home, I was like, okay, can we go get a game? And they were like, how expensive are games? And I was like, pretty expensive, Mom. So we ended up getting a demo disc off of the PlayStation magazine. I brought it back, and I saw on this specific demo disc, they had the full cutscene of
Lunar Silver Star Story.
Yep. And there's a sequence where they're having like this kind of music moment on a boat, and you could watch this entire digital video sequence on a disc. And I'm watching it, and I'm telling my mom, "You don't get this, Mom. This isn't a VHS in a tape player. This is a disc. There's a movie on a disc, and I don't have to rewind it. When I'm done, I take the disc out, or I just push this button and it restarts, and I don't have to wait. Mom, this is the future. Yeah. The future is here. This is the future in a system." And it was really hard to explain that to a lot of people, but it was really cool for its time.
Yeah, the system became like the first for a lot of things. Like it was the first system where there was a bunch of FMV on it, and it really felt like it was incorporated like solidly within the games themselves. It was also like I just feel like it was the way that I dipped into a lot of genres I hadn't previously. I remember again, same friend who had rented Final Fantasy VII had also rented the first Resident Evil. Was like, hey, sit down and play that. Like in a world where, as far as I was concerned, Resident Evil never existed until that day when I was there and you rented that game. And it was that moment where the zombie turns around and looks at you for the first time. And it was just horrific. And I was like, graphics can't get better than this.
Yeah.
This is the scariest thing I've ever seen. And then Polygon Me is like tank running into all the walls trying to get away from this one zombie.
Yeah, it's like established franchises we have now, many of them were born on the PlayStation in the early days. Things that have come on to a bunch of different platforms. But at that time, there were so many crazy things. And it's not like the system was perfect. It also had its flaws. We already talked about having to flip the disc.
Sure.
But there was also issues when you could consider that with any other cartridge game system we had before, you could save your game onto the cartridge.
Oh my gosh.
But with the PlayStation, that wasn't a thing. Now, I can confirm I didn't have a memory card for a really long time.
Yeah, I was the same way. I didn't have a memory card for a long time. I remember going on a vacation to my grandparents' place, and I was there for a while, and I got Lunar Silver Star Story. I had a memory card, but it was back at home. But I was in like Montreal, Canada, with a sprawling JRPG that I loved, and I had to restart it. Like, I kept playing it for an hour, and I'd be like, well, I gotta go eat or something, and then I'd have to restart it again. But I loved it so much. I wound up going and like getting a memory card a week later or something. But for that week, I was playing that game for an hour or two, and then like, well, this is gonna be really good when I can save and like, you know, play the game properly.
There was like a part there where I'm playing a whole bunch of different games, and some of them need a memory card, but I was like, you know what? I don't need a memory card right now. I think it was with Metal Gear and a couple of other games. I was like, okay, I need to get a memory card. I remember when I first did it, my parents were like, you can't buy just a single memory card to save your games. Just play it when you're done, go play it again. Like, they're from the older world where, you know, it was like an arcade game. You just play it and then when you're done. So I remember I went to the store and they had knockoff memory cards, but one of them was very important. It was a knockoff memory card that was about twice expensive as a normal memory card, and I managed to convince my parents, I need to get this because there's these 2 buttons on it, and you can basically switch out memory cards inside of it, because it had a whole bunch of memory card like files inside, basically, so like a save structure. And I remember I used that, and for every game that I played, I would set up an individual memory card for it. Now, that might sound really cool for the time, and it was, but they were also incredibly unreliable and they really broke save states a lot. I got lucky. Mine never broke, but I had tons of friends who I convinced to buy the same thing and that were not my friends afterwards.
Yeah, I always went with the official PlayStation memory cards and I didn't have any problems, but I had heard about issues. Another official PlayStation device that I know you wound up getting and I wound up getting, you know, maybe a year or so after getting the PlayStation is the DualShock.
Yeah.
The original DualShock. I remember getting that and it felt amazing. It was so cool, and it was the first time I took like any sort of gaming controller or peripheral or whatever, and I just like I put it on like a podium or pedestal, like on my shelf. I was like, this is a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
I just put it to the side.
It made a lot of sense at the time.
Yeah, it was expensive.
Yeah.
I remember it being a bit expensive.
It was like, but what was cool about this was I remember the N64 had been on the market and they had, because like everything around that time kind of blends in. I was using the internet at the time. I was on PC and I was playing PlayStation, but news came out in batches. So a game would come out, maybe you didn't hear about it because it's not like you had a direct source like nowadays we do with YouTube and stuff where we get information right away. So I remember my friend got the the Rumble pack for the N64, and he was like, it's really cool. You just put some batteries in at the end, plug it in, and then it vibrates your controller. And I was like, cool. But then when that DualShock came out, you didn't need batteries. And the concept of that was like, you didn't need batteries?
Yeah, right.
Why didn't everyone just do that?
That blew my mind too. I was like, wait, there was a way that this could be done without batteries altogether? I was like, man, that's such a bummer.
I know. It was really confusing.
Yeah, again, the controller was a bit more expensive because of that. And like, I mean, hey, you're playing Metal Gear Solid and someone says that they can move your controller across the floor. Darn tootin' they can.
Is this even a like, I hate to say this isn't a contest or anything for me. Between the PlayStation DualShock controller and the N64 controller, we still use a variety of one of those controllers to this very day. The DualShock is freaking iconic because it made sense. And they kept using that design even when people told them not to. They kept using it for generation after generation of PlayStation consoles.
There was almost a boomerang. We can't forget that. But then they boomeranged back.
Yes, that's
true.
They
boomeranged back to the DualShock-like design.
With the PlayStation 5 controller that we've only seen little bits and rumors of what it might look like, it's still going to look basically like that.
That's true.
Folks, it's crazy. That design has stayed the course for so long, and it has allowed so many interesting things to happen with PlayStation games. Despite the fact the controller never really modified that much, outside of some abilities like wireless functions or motion controls or a touchpad.
That touchpad can go, get out of here.
Whatever it is, all those features have kept adding on and making the games just as good. The same basic function and design of the game controller that we used to play Twisted Metal is still the same function design of the controller we use now.
I don't think the Twisted Metal had the stick compatibility.
No. Just the layout.
The layout was the same.
Yes.
Sure. I mean that our D-pad, the use of our D-pad might not be
that's true.
as much as it used to be back in the day, but
yeah.
still, I'm with you. It's been very, very similar. PlayStation's come a very long way in 25 years, but at the same time, it still harkens back to that original design, right?
Yeah.
So, pretty big deal.
Yeah.
The folks at Sony are celebrating.
It's a big deal. It's a great thing to have this happen. And honestly, it only seems to be getting bigger for them. But folks, do you believe that the PlayStation deserves to have sold as much as it has? Or do you think that the brand is kind of not all that cool nowadays, and maybe it's just not as awesome as it used to be?
I want to know what your memories are of the original PlayStation and what games you played. Let us know in the comments below.